joining me. I am on to talk about the ultimate vegan bundle with Raw Food Romance. I'm really pleased to have her on for at least a half an hour to chat about how to make the perfect hand salads. And so I'm going to look for her now. Let's see. Raw Food Romance. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know what the bundle is, it's an amazing project. We're a bunch of raw food specialists and creators from around the world who have come together to, here we go. And there she is. So we're offering this bundle for a mere $50, and it's valued at over $1,800. Hey, Lissa.
Hey,
Good. How are
how's it
you?
going?
It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. I know, you know what I love the most about this bundle is that we get to meet each other and talk to each other, and we get to like share with all the other people who these new people are. Like, I'm so excited to meet you. This is so
It really is.
awesome.
I really love the connections I've been able to make and the discussions, and yeah, it's been really amazing. And I'm just like excited to be able to have you on because I've been, following you for a few years now, and I just have so much respect for, your artistic creativity with the recipes and your photography. And I was actually talking to Daniel McKinnon yesterday, and he was mentioning how you're an amazing artist as well. That I didn't realize that you knew how to make some really cool photographic quality drawings. So, anyways, I'm getting off topic.
Yes, I
Yeah,
know.
as a
Side
side
note.
note, we're here to talk about the bundle, but
Yeah.
for me it falls into the fact that you're just like an amazing artist all around. So the fact that your recipes and the the color and the way that you plate your food, it just shows that you have artistic abilities. So yeah.
Yeah, I know I am an artist at heart, so in my past, I mean, I haven't had much time to do art aside from food art, but I paint, I draw, I do like clay
Okay.
miniatures. Um, yeah, I have done a lot of stuff. Like I said, I need some time so that I can really put into it, but I really like realism. So when I do my pencil drawings, it's like real black and white. So this is pretty cool. It's pretty fun.
That's
I need some more
amazing.
time.
Well, that was my past life. I worked in a contemporary art foundation for 15 years. That's why I'm so into, art. I was able to work with Patti Smith and David Lynch on contemporary art exhibitions, and so yeah, like I love art, and yeah, it's still part of my life even though I'm a naturopath now. And so yeah, so I was just explaining to people what the bundle was. Amazing creators from all around the world that have come together to offer ebooks and courses for $50. Like, it's perfect for anyone that wants to start eating more fruits and vegetables. You don't have to be vegan or vegetarian or raw vegan or anything like that to take advantage of the bundle. And yeah, you contributed 2 ebooks. You have the hand salads, and then with Chef AJ, you have the Make It Raw too. So I don't know if you want to, I'm sure you've talked about the ebooks a lot up until today, but if you have, like, you'd mentioned you wanted to talk about like tips on making the best hand salads. If you have anything that you wanted to share with people today, that would be awesome.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, let's talk hand salads. So the hand salad, the name actually came from Angelica, who's also in the bundle. She has the yin yoga course. So we went hiking one day and we made her some burgers, and we're eating them after the hike, and we're just joking around how it's like hers was so big. Like, we made it like massive for her. And she's like, it's a hand salad. And then the name stuck. So every time we have like a burger or like a taco or something we eat with our hands, we're eating a hand salad. So when I made the book, I thought, what better name than hand salad? Because it's not just what you put in the wrap that's a salad, but the wrap itself
It's part
is
of the
vegetable
salad.
and fruit based. So it's like part of the salad, right? exactly. So that's where the name came from. And so to make good wraps, now I have had so many problems over the years making wraps raw. And I've been raw now like almost 9 years. And every time I would try to do a wrap, I'd follow the recipe exactly word for word. And for some reason, my wraps would always get like super curly and crusty on the edges, or they'd be too soft in the center with like rock hard edges. They would be more like a cracker. They might not be able to fold, or if they were nice in the center, I would cut the edges and then I would waste the extra edge, right? So I was like, how am I supposed to make wraps? So Nate and I kind of gave up. Like Nate tried too, and he would always have like problems with his wraps as well. And then I asked Instagram, I was like, do you guys have problems with wraps too? And so many, it was like 80% was the poll. And there are like so many
I've
people
had
have
major
problems
issues
with
with
wraps.
wraps. Like, I love
So
wraps, but I've always kind of like
yeah.
avoided them like the Black Plague because of these issues.
Exactly. I know. I'm glad that you said that because we're not alone. People who try raw wraps, and even if we follow the recipe, it just doesn't work the same way we would hope it would. So last year, I polled my Instagram and I asked, like, what kind of a recipe book or ebook do you guys want to see from me right next? And overwhelmingly, people wanted a wrap book. And I'm like, ugh. I'm like, I can't even make wraps properly. So I took the challenge on and I started playing with some recipes and testing them out and seeing how they would do. And, you know, using the basic wrap ideas that I knew from the past, which were, you know, like flip it halfway and whatever. And I was like trying all these techniques and my wraps just weren't working. And I was getting really frustrated because I wanted to make this book and I had told myself, and I only had like a couple months to make it for this bundle. And I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? And so one day when we were doing the wraps, I pulled one out early because the edges were getting really crunchy, but the center looked soft and the center looked nice. And I was like, okay, maybe, but it was like still like super soft. And I'm like, maybe if I'm really gentle, like this isn't going to work for the average person, right? Because it's like going to be challenging. So I took it out anyways, and Nate and I had like our cameras set up. We're like, okay, we're gonna make this wrap and it's gonna be amazing. And so I'm rolling it up and it completely just fell right apart because it wasn't like, it was not done. But I was scared to make it done because the edges were like crunchy crackers. So I at that night I was so disappointed and like really kind of frustrated and annoyed that like these wraps weren't working, and I had like 6 different recipes for wraps in the dehydrator at the time, and I hadn't flipped any of them because they had just gone in, and I was trying to work on this one. It didn't work, so I threw my hands up in the air and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe I'm gonna do a different ebook because I just can't do wraps. So I gave it to the universe. I was like, whatever, it is what it is. The universe was kind of telling me like, just go to
Sleep on
bed,
it,
like, you
right?
know,
It's always
chill,
good
whatever.
advice.
So I left. Yeah, exactly. Always like, trust it, trust it. So I left everything in the dehydrator. I was like, I'm not even going to bother with everything in there because I was so frustrated. I didn't want to deal with the wraps at all. I was like, I'll clean the dehydrator tomorrow. I'll just leave everything in there. I was like, so done. The next day we get up and I had left it on because I thought it would be easier to peel it off the tray when it was hard than it would be to rinse them out when they're still soft. So I left the dehydrator on and I left them. I didn't touch them at all. The next day we get up and we go to the dehydrator to clean it out, and the wraps were perfect. They were beyond perfect. I was just like, we're peeling them off and we're like, what? Like, it's just like mind blowing. So the trick was to not flip it. And I was like, well, why are all these people saying to flip it halfway? Like, because what happens when you flip it is you're exposing the other side. You're like double exposing air.
Right.
So it's like that's what creates the waves, right? It's like, it's trying to dry on both sides. and it's not able to fully flat dry. So that was one of the biggest things to like making good wraps, is not flipping it. But also keeping it 1/4 of an inch thick all the way around. Like people, when they see the wraps and they're like 1/4 of an inch thick, like, I mean, that's like fairly thick, but what they don't realize is you need the thickness. Yeah, because then when it dries down, it's only about, you know, like a couple millimeters thick. So you need to have it thick first. You also need, like, there's been so many people who have been asking for substitutions, like, can I swap onions for this, and can I not use the psyllium, and can I not use the chia, can I not use this, that, and the other thing? And I'm like, well, you could, but I can't guarantee that the recipe is going to turn out the way it did for me. It might be too cracky, it might split apart. There could be other reasons why it won't work, but one of the biggest things I could say for those who have bought the bundle, buy the bundle from Alanna's link in the bio. Please go get that.
You told me to put my link in the discussion. I've never done this, so I'll try right now.
So if you post it in the comment, and then you post it like a comment, then when it posts, you can actually tap and hold on your comment, and then when you let go, it'll give you an option to pin.
All right. Let's see if we can. You're teaching me how to pin.
Yeah, I'm teaching you how to pin a comment. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, I pinned it.
Yeah, so only the host is able to do that. So that's awesome. You guys, the link now is in the chat, or you can go to Alanna's bio and buy it from her over there. But anyways, for those of you who bought it, and those of you who will buy it, when you open my wrap book, it's incredibly important to read the beginning and watch the video that I have. I have a 27-minute video that teaches you how to know when the wraps are done.
Your video is great. It's really great. It's very helpful because there's a huge difference between having a written recipe and having, you know, someone actually walk you through it, and you're actually showing people how to touch the wrap to see, you know, when it's ready. I found that it was super helpful. I have to buy some of those trays with the lips on them because I still have just the normal silicone trays, and I feel like I'm not able to get the thickness the way it should be. I feel like the lip probably adds some sort of like surface tension to the wrap, and that way it keeps it more homogeneous, if that makes sense. So
yes, totally. I agree. It also helps you to keep it 1/4 inch thick the entire wrap, because if you get an offset spatula, like those cake decorating spatulas, and you just like go, it's so meditative. I actually really enjoy that part of the wrap process, because like once I pour it into the trays, I'm like, yeah. So I get in there and I'm just like trowel, like spreading it really nice. But yeah, it's so important, so important to read the instructions, because I have pages of troubleshooting and common questions that I get asked. Like when I was starting to share about the wraps on social media, I made a question sticker. I was like, what questions do you have about my wraps? And people were asking things like, are they low fat? How long can they store? Can you freeze them? How do I know when they're done? Blah, blah, blah. Like there's so many different questions that people were asking. So I took those questions and I answered them in the ebook. So if people get the ebook, they're like, oh yeah, I had that question and Lissa answered it here. I also talk about, there are a very, 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 very few random people who have made the wraps, and they've made wraps that work really, really well for me. But for them, and it could be the environment that they're in. If it's too humid, it's really hard to dehydrate stuff if it's really, really humid. So I recommend getting a dehumidifier for the area so that it keeps it really dry. But for some people, it's like the center is like pulling away from itself and it's creating like a dry lake bed. Yeah. So in those cases, if you are living in an environment where it's challenging to dehydrate, I recommend adding a little bit extra chia and psyllium to bind everything together a little bit better. Another thing that's incredibly important, and I cannot stress this enough, follow the recipe the way I have it. And yes, you can play around, but again, I can't guarantee it's going to work because I have weights. So I put weights in the ebook. because if you, so one of the recipes calls for 2 large sweet onions. And sweet onions I use a lot because they are A, really good for the gut microbiome, but B, when you blend and dehydrate them, they're hardly at all like
Hmm.
irritating to the stomach for people who are
They're
sensitive to
milder.
onions and alliums and stuff. Way milder. But if you go to the store and you're like, ooh, that's a large onion, and you get it, maybe it's half the size of the one I used for the original recipe. And if you're using less onion, you're going to get less volume. Your
Right.
wraps won't be as thick, and the fiber won't be there. The inulin fiber won't be there. So I recommend highly that you weigh the ingredients out so you get the exact amount that you need to make 2 trays and get enough of the fiber. I've had people who are like, oh, can I replace, I can't eat dates. Can
Right,
I
right.
leave them out? I'm like,
That
no,
gives
you need
elasticity.
the,
You must have been reading my mind because when I was making, yesterday I started to make the caramelized onion wrap, and I was weighing out the onions, and I was like, oh gosh, good thing I weighed them out because, I was thinking, I had really small onions, and I was like, oh, I'll just put like, maybe 3 onions per large onion, and it ended up being 8 small onions to make that weight. I think it was
wow.
800 grams or something. And so, yeah, I was like thinking
Yeah.
this is like a good example of when the weights are really important. It's not like a salad. There's a lot more chemistry involved with a wrap than there is a salad or, a smoothie, for example, when it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm so happy you mentioned that because yeah, when I was doing it, I had these like, for some reason, Nate, like the onions that he got were like monstrous, massive onions. Like they were so big. But then I was weighing them out and I'm like, okay, so, because I wanted to see what 1 cup of chopped
Hmm.
onions was like. And I'm like, well, I'm putting a lot more than, like 2 or 3 cups in. And then I didn't want to say cups either because a person could chop it roughly and get less in it. If they chopped it finely, they could get more in it. And I'm like, there's got to be a more universal way to do this. And weights, if it weighs that much, then you're getting the same amount as my recipe. So it's so important that people follow the recipe. And another thing too, one of the big questions that people ask is, can they leave out the psyllium? So to answer that one, yes, you can swap it for more chia, but it might be
Hmm.
more jelly and it might not dry the same, for one. For two, you're making it more fat. So I wanted these wraps to
Hmm.
be low fat wraps. And that's why there's only a tablespoon of chia instead. Like some wraps out there call for a cup of flax or whatever. And I'm like, I want these
Right.
wraps to be low fat. That the whole point
Exactly.
is low fat, right? So I had to find ways to not put a cup of flax in. So each wrapper has 1 tablespoon of chia or flax in. And some of the wrappers have like a little bit of tahini. I think one of the wrappers has some hemp seeds in it, but it's such a small amount that they would still be considered low fat,
Yeah.
especially if you load them up with just vegetables, then it's a good low wrap. But I don't recommend leaving out or swapping the psyllium. Number one, psyllium is an incredible prebiotic and it's really healing on the gut. People don't realize this. You might need to start slow, like only eat half a wrap if you're not used to the fiber because it can be a lot. Number two, you want to drink a lot of water throughout the day when you're consuming psyllium because psyllium does absorb more water in your colon. So it's actually recommended, like Lana's doing right now. Drink more water.
You
It's
always have
so
to have a
important.
big jar. Like,
But it's actually, yes. It's really healing for the gut. It actually is mucilaginous, so it's actually soft, but it still, it still has the fiber action in your gut. But it's so gentle on the colon. If your colon is like, if you're not used to eating high fiber, yeah, it's going to cause like a little, party going on in there. But that's just your gut like growing to make, to get used to that. So I recommend, like, if you're going to do the wraps, like do them more often to help grow your microbiome and just eat half. Maybe you have half a wrap with a salad as your meal instead of eating the entire one right off the bat if you're not used to fiber. But the psyllium is so important because it's a binding agent and it binds everything together and it actually absorbs a lot of the water. So it kind of like brings it all together. And it's a really, really important ingredient. But also all of the ingredients that are in the wraps are there for a specific reason. The fruit is there to lend the elasticity, the pliability. The psyllium is in there to add the binder. The chia and the flax are in there to create that jelly kind of movement to the wrap. And if you're doing too much root vegetables, or like the ones that have root vegetables in, need more sugars. So it's important to have like apples or grapes, or not grapes, raisins or dates, or you could even swap the dates for figs or apricots. I've done
raisins before, like they work pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. There is the wrap, the sweet carrot raisin wrap. I use raisins in that one. That's one of my favorite wraps. So guys, get the bundle, make that wrap. It's so good. But yeah, when you're doing roots, because the roots are so fibery, they dry out more like crackers. So you need to have the sweet pliability of the fruit in there. But that's the beauty of the wraps. You're getting so many fruits and vegetables and different varieties in there. Like I have some green wraps that have like spinach or kale, or you could add other greens to them. I have the V8 wrap, which is like the V8 juice, but in a wrap version. So yeah, it's really cool. But those would be my main tips when you're doing the wraps. Watch the video, please, because even though you might think it's dry, there's a special technique on how to touch the wraps to know what they're really dry when they're ready. And if they're not ready, leave them in the dehydrator. Don't peel them off the tray, because as soon as you start peeling the wrap to look at it, you're like so excited. You're like, oh my gosh, you peel the edge. That edge is going to get too dry because you're exposing air to the other side. So it's very important to watch that video. It's very important to weigh your ingredients out, and it's very important to follow the recipe. This is like physics and chemistry wraps 101.
This is awesome. I wanted to say that I love the idea behind the wraps also, because it's just it's a wonderful way of getting kids to eat more greens, because I noticed that with my children, when I put, greens on a plate, they're like, oh, like they're not as excited. But when I have a wrap, when I have been able to make wraps, they've definitely been more interested in them. So that was like one really cool thing that I, discovered by using different wraps. So I'm gonna have to try yours out on my kids. And
oh my god, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll take some pictures, videos. And I also wanted to ask you, how do you get your ideas for all of the different flavor combinations, the spices? I'm interested in spices a lot. You saw that through my ebook. And so I was just curious as to how you come up with the combinations, and if you have like different sources that you inspire yourself from.
That's a really good question. I am obsessed with spices. Like I have got, in Canada, where I'm from in Edmonton, there's a company called Silk Road Spices, and they're on one of the trendy avenues in Edmonton, and I would go in there, and sometimes I would spend like an hour and a half just like looking at all the spices and reading the ingredients and how they came up with the combos, and then I would spend like obscene amounts of money. Like I'd drop like $200 on spices, and I'd be like, I'm gonna go home and use all these. And so our spice cabinet is loaded with all kinds of really like different unique spices. And I just like you with your smoothie book that's in the bundle. If anyone buys the bundle, your book is smoothies and spice and everything nice, and you're adding like spices to smoothies. And it's really cool because spices have like so many amazing properties to them, and they're really beneficial to us in many ways. And adding them to our food not only adds flavor, of course, but it adds health benefits too. So I feel like I learned just by reading the different combinations of some spice combinations from all those times that I would just go into that spice store just because. And this was before I was writing recipes or anything. I would just go in there because I'm just so intrigued by spice and flavor and all of that. So like when I'm making a recipe, I try to combine certain spices that have similar profiles, like cumin and garam masala and like curries, all of those kind of go together. And then, you know, you've got your Italian herb list, and then mixing and matching. One of the spice combinations that I really learned a lot, like that kind of spurred my like exploration of different combinations, was I was looking at a dill pickle seasoning spice blend, and they had allspice in the spice blend, and I was like, oh, interesting. Like, why would you put allspice in a dill pickle seasoning? So when I got home, I made my own dill pickle. It was one of my first ebooks, the Dips and Dressings book. But I added allspice to my dill pickle one, and it took it to a next level. I was like, what? Allspice? Like, who would have thought that it would do so much? So I like to play around with different spice combos. I do use a lot of like onion powder and smoked paprika. Those are probably my top two that I use a lot of. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it brings such a unique flavor to things, and it brings that like memory of like barbecues or like smokiness to a dish or whatever. But onion powder is definitely the one I use the most, because it brings that balanced flavor without the having to actually put raw onion into something. Like the powder is so much more gentle on the system if you're not used to eating a lot of onions, but it also just like pure flavor. It's so nice. I love onion powder. But yeah, I just like to play around with stuff, and I mix different ones together to see how they turn out, and sometimes they don't turn out.
Well, you can't know until you try. That actually reminds me, I was talking to John Kohler last night, and we were talking about my book quickly, and he had mentioned, you know, or actually maybe it was on his video where he goes through the different books in the bundle, but he'd mentioned, oh yeah, you know, she's promoting spices and, you know, how they're helpful for the microbiome in your gut. And it's true, it's something I didn't mention in my book, but they have, I was curious last night, I was looking up a study, and I found something that basically, a study that went into detail and shows that there is a positive effect of spices on your microbiome. So I thought that that was really cool too, is like having, you know, all these greens and all these vegetables and all these fruits and, you know, now spices and herbs. So
I know, it's such a beautiful combination how everything works together. And I actually learned that too from Dr. Will Bolsewicz and his book Fiber World. He talks a little bit about spices in there, and he actually recommends peppercorns and Sichuan pepper. Yeah, Sichuan peppercorns are really good for the microbiome.
Oh,
so
nice.
is allspice.
Wonderful. I made a pink peppercorn chai.
Yeah,
because I didn't have. Yeah, it came out really nice. You know, it was kind of an accident. I didn't have black pepper on hand, and I was like, oh, pink peppercorn, I'll try it, and it ended up being really, really nice. So if anyone watches this and wants that recipe, send me a message and I'll send it to you, because it's not in my ebook.
Very cool. I love that. I love that. Yeah, the Sichuan pepper has a kind of like it's, I want to say numbing, because when you like, I grind the Sichuan pepper. It's kind of like a pink pepper, but it's like, it's different. But anyways, I ground some up and I tasted it, and it numbed my tongue for a little bit because it was so unique. But it's got a really florally flavor to it. It's not so much black pepper type, but it's way more florally, and it's got like a really different range. So I like to mix different peppercorns in our peppercorn grinder, so we get a little bit of everything. But I like the Till Cherry black pepper. That's probably the best one that I found for flavor. It's the one that chefs use, so I'm like, why not, right? I'm a chef, I'm gonna use that one. But yeah, the Sichuan and allspice are really good for the microbiome because of something in the fiber that's in the spice
the compound
itself that is really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, black pepper is the most widely used spice in the world, and I didn't realize it, but people have been using it for years and centuries to boost the immune system. And so, yeah, all of these different spices and herbs that can bring so many benefits.
Exactly. And I love your contribution to the bundle. We actually made quite a few of your smoothies because your book and Emma's book and Matt, you guys had a bunch of smoothies. So we're like in the morning when we made our what I ate in a day videos, because we have 11 what we ate in a day from the bundle. So it was like
Oh,
we had
nice.
another one from Alanna because your book is so cool. So tell everyone a little bit more about why you wrote that book
Oh,
and how you came up
thank
with
you
your
for the
recipes.
feedback. Yeah, when I was learning to become a naturopath, we briefly studied different therapeutic uses for spices and herbs, and I just thought that it was really fascinating. I mean, I always knew that there were, advantages to different spices and herbs, but I never really delved into it. And of course, the doses in the smoothies, they're not by any means therapeutic because usually you would have to be taking a lot larger of a dose several times a day. But I just really like the idea of um, getting back in touch with these natural substances that people have been using for centuries to help them with various health issues. And I also felt like I was always using the same herb and spice kind of in the same way and getting bored with it and, kind of just getting stuck in like, mechanisms. And I was like, well, maybe I should just like write an ebook. That way it'll force me to like get out of my comfort zone and start creating different herbs and spice combinations and, well, more spice and veggie and fruit combinations because each smoothie has, I tried to keep it to one spice because I like the idea of having, just really focusing on the flavor of that very one spice. Of course, there's some spice combinations that work really well together. I mean, this is pretty commonly known. Black pepper and turmeric, they go well together. The piperine and the curcuma, yeah, they just kind of combine really well. And yeah, so that's basically it. That was the the thought process behind my book. So each smoothie recipe has like a one-page uh, kind of a synopsis, little background on what the spice or herb has been used for and the compound in it that's been used for different therapeutic reasons and what it's been used for. And then you have the recipe. I tried to make the recipes really easy. I think the recipe with the most ingredients has like 8 ingredients. And I used all dried herbs and spices, thinking that, people who have a hard time getting a hold of fresh spices and herbs, they can just use whatever they have in their cabinet. But then, of course, if you have, the fresh stuff, that's always, great to use. So, and at the end, there's,
That's
I made as I was going through different, like, researching different combinations that people have been using, different chefs, I decided to make an herb and spice pairing chart. So if people want it, they can get it. It's like at the end of my ebook, you can sign up to get it. And it kind of looks like this. I mean, it looks scary on the screen because it's filling up the screen. But honestly, it's not that big. It's printed on an A3 sheet of paper. And I made it because I thought it would be cool, like if you are at home and you're enjoying exploring different herbs and spices and vegetables, you can kind of like keep track of the ones you like. And so there's one set that has flavor combinations that I recommend, and then there's one set that's completely blank, so you can fill it in yourself and just like, yeah, if you want to start becoming a spice expert or a spice chef or whatever you want to call it, have fun.
that is such a cool thing. Oh my gosh, yeah, the pairing and then yeah, learning about
Yeah.
your own tastes and flavors. I love that you mentioned that it was like getting you to get creative, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love the most about the bundle is because it takes a whole year for us to come up with our new ebooks and create new recipes or create the video content. And it takes all of us a long time to get these done. And it gets us out of our comfort zone because we want to create something new and refreshing for all the people who are watching and all the people who follow us. We want to re-inspire them and get some new stuff out there. And it teaches us to step out of our comfort zones because like the rap book was definitely out of my comfort zone. I was like, this is not an easy thing for me to do, but I'm so glad that I did it, because now we have this wrap book, and now you have your smoothies and spice ebook, and we can share them with the world for as long as we are here right now. Like, we've got these resources for people, and the bundle is such an amazing resource. I wish that I had access to a bundle when I first started, but bundles didn't exist
Absolutely.
back
Yeah, when
then.
I became
So
vegetarian in 1991, I was just like, totally lost and thinking I need to eat lots of dairy for protein and calcium and all that. So, yeah, I wish it had existed. And another thing about the smoothies is I felt like the smoothies were one of the major tools that I used to help lose weight, because after having my 3 kids, I had 35 pounds to lose. And so smoothies were like, yeah, basically the thing that kind of kept me going. I know that you lost a lot of weight as well. So I don't know how big of a role smoothies played in your journey as well. But yeah, that was another reason why I wanted to write the
daily.
smoothie book.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and we do smoothies pretty much every single morning. If we don't do a smoothie, it's either a fruit bowl
Hmm.
or an ice cream. Like, but those aren't like super often. In the summertime, I feel like we eat more fruit bowls because the fruit's just way better. So we're like, why blend it when you can eat it and
Right.
taste each one individually? But yeah, like for the most part, we do smoothies every day. Our morning looks a little bit like, in the morning, as soon as we get up, we have fresh whole fruit. So we'll have like mangoes or nectarines or apples or bananas or whatever. We have like, maybe, it depends on the day, but it's anywhere between 200 and 400 calories first thing in the morning. And then we go for our walk. And then when we get
Hmm.
back, then we make our smoothie. So we do have a smoothie every day. And like we said, we've been using smoothies from your book because it's so cool. My favorite one from your book is
Oh,
the
nice.
wine
Okay.
one.
Yeah, a
The
lot of people
Yeah,
like
the
that
dark
one the best. I
pepper
think
one.
I like that one the best as well.
Yeah, that one is
Oh,
definitely, we've made it like
that's
2 or 3 times
nice.
already.
That's really,
Because
that's
we're
nice.
like, make that one
Well, living in France,
again,
I was like, I
make
have to
that
make, I actually made the smoothie, and then afterwards I was like, wow, this reminds me of wine. And I was like, you know what? This is perfect because I'm living in France, so it's nice to have that. Nice to have that out there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, that you, I know that
Yeah,
you
great combination.
have another live after this, and it's been a long day. So I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to. Maybe there are some people that have asked a couple of questions.
Yeah,
Uh,
is there any
I'm
question?
gonna back up and see if there are questions in the chat. Um, I saw a comment. Do you like to use Nigella seeds? Watermelon lime. Uh, Do you use Nigella seeds?
I We have. I have some ground. I've actually just added them to dressings in the past. Like, I don't really notice so much of a flavor. Like, I really need to play around with those and experiment more with how to use them and how to uh, get more like flavor combinations and stuff. But
Hmm.
I have them. I just haven't worked with them. Another spice that I got that I never used until the bundle. So the bundle is a great way to expand your kitchen skills and your like using new things and exploring. Like, that's something that
Hmm.
is really healing for the mind. Like, exploring and trying new things and that kind of thing really grows the neural pathways in our minds. And so there's a spice, or I don't know if I'd call it a spice necessarily, but it's amchur, and it's mango. It's like dried mango
Hmm.
rind powder or something like that. You really can't make it yourself. It's like a really unique spice. It's called amchur. And
Oh,
when I
wow.
was buying my like yearly $500 order from the spice store, I know we, but we use a lot of spices. Anyways, I'm going through their like list of everything, and I see amchur, and I was like, oh, it kind of gives like a tang, um, like it's a sour-ish flavor. So like, if you didn't want to use lemon juice, you could use amchur. And I was like, well, I'm gonna get it, right? So I bought it like 2 years ago, and I never used it because if you don't know how to use a spice, you don't use it. So when we got access to the bundle, Daniel McKinnon, he's got an ebook called Raw Nation, and he has a bunch of recipes that
Oh.
call for amateur. And I was like, yes, I have that spice. So I actually started using it, and now that I know how to use it by following Daniel's recipes, now I can use it more often in my own recipes and explore more with that spice. So that's like,
Yeah,
you guys got to get the
it's
bundle
amazing. It's
because
an
it's
amazing resource. Yeah, I pinned the link, and you can also get the bundle in our bios. And I see another question. Lissa, what did you
exactly.
make from Alanna's book? You said that you made the dark pepper wine smoothie.
Yeah, we made the dark pepper wine smoothie. We made the It's About Time smoothie. And we made another one, but I can't
Yeah,
remember the name
don't
of it
worry
off
about
the top of my
it. Too
head.
many things to
Yeah,
retain.
I think, yeah, we made
Nice.
3 from your book. And we made, because we had 11 days, so we made 3 from your book. We made 3 from Matt's book. We made, I think, 1 from Emma. A couple of the days we just had melon because we had no time in the morning to, so we just have like, we had honeydew for breakfast. And then we made 1 from Karen Ramsey. She had like
Oh,
one called
nice.
Mango Heaven Shake, and that one was really good. But all these recipes are in the bundle for everybody to use. Like there's over 400 recipes in the bundle, and you pay one price of $50 to get everything, but it's
Yeah,
over in just over 3 days. Like it ends Thursday night and it's done. And then you'll never be able
and
to
it's
get this
gone forever.
combination again.
Yeah, I actually think someone sent me a message
Yeah.
now that I remember someone mentioned that they saw you talking about doing the vampire cayenne smoothie. Was that was that the
Oh,
one?
yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
nice.
That's the other one. Yep, that was the third one. That one was really good. With the cayenne, it was like, I just love being able to try creations from other creators because I have my own flavors, my own way of doing things. But every time the bundle comes around, Nate and I are like, let's try everything. So that's why we made almost
Oh my
50
God, you guys
recipes
are amazing.
from the bundle over a over a 2-week period. So what we did was we got the bundle and we took probably about 2 hours and we opened everybody's books, and we're like, like you can see, like your book was smoothie related. So it's like, oh, we go to
Hmm.
Alanna's book for breakfasts. And we know Matt has smoothies. So we went to Matt's book for some breakfasts. And what we did was we had a notepad and we wrote day 1, we're going to have this for breakfast, this for lunch, and this for dinner. And we combined a lot of recipes. Like, for example, for lunch, we have like Chris Kendall's stew and then my mom's jicama slaw. And then for dinner, we would have like, I don't know, like one of our wraps with a salad from someone else. So we tried to get like as many different people's recipes into these days that we could. It was a lot of prep because we did a lot more than like what a person would normally do. Like we wouldn't be making like a stew from one person and a salad from another person and
Oh,
then a
nice.
dessert from another person in a typical day. That's like a little bit much, but we wanted to showcase all the things that you could make from the bundle, right? Like if somebody just wanted to make Lena's pasta and have that they could totally do that. Or we had it with a salad. But there's like so many different combinations. We made the crispy chicken sandwich from
Uh-huh.
Enzyme or Daniel's book, and we had that with my mom's Caesar dressing with her bacon bits on top. Like we just had so much fun. So over those 2 weeks, we made over almost pretty much around 50 recipes to make our videos for the bundle, and we're releasing them every single day, sharing about what we made from the bundle. But it's really cool because I've had so much good feedback from people. They're like, oh, well, I bought the bundle just for your rap book, but now that you're doing these videos, now I'm opening Alanna's book, and I'm opening Matt's book, and I'm opening Karen's book, and I'm opening Chris's book, and I'm going to try those recipes that you tried because it's cool for people to see what we wanted to make, right? Because everybody's going to
Hmm.
want to make different things, and like when we recipe a different smoothie as opposed to someone else, but it's cool to see and it's cool to explore. And I really encourage you guys to get the bundle so that you can explore and plan out your days. Like even if you just did one day, you don't have to do what we did. But even if you just like are like, okay, I'm gonna choose a smoothie from Alanna, I'm going to pick a lunch salad from that, and I'm going to make Lissa's wrap for dinner, right? If you just did that, then you could explore all of the stuff that we have. Because like I said, there's over 400 recipes. So you'll be busy for a
Amazing.
year.
Yeah, next year we can do a collaborative meal plan.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that would be
it could be fun.
fun,
So I
right?
have another comment. Why do people
Yeah,
say eating a
wonderful.
lot of fruit isn't good? My kids take nothing but fruit for lunch because they're picky eaters, and I'm told they will end up with diabetes. That's really sad that there's still this myth about fruit causing diabetes. Diabetes is the real cause of, you know, diabetes is having a high fat diet, and those with type 1 diabetes. I have a cousin, she's got type 1 diabetes, and she's on a low fat, high raw vegan diet. And since she's taken it down, like, you know, she was eating pretty low fat to begin with, but she's cut it down even more, and she was able to cut her insulin levels in half within 4 weeks. So yeah, eating a lot of fruit, there's no problem with it whatsoever. And if your kids are eating lots of fruits, that's
No
like
problem.
amazing. I mean, I see a lot of kids eating like pasta and like, you know, sliced ham. And honestly, like, yeah, no, eating fruit is great. It's great if they love fruit. And if you want to try to get more greens into them, I would recommend getting them excited about making green smoothies with you. Like if they want to pick the different fruits that they love, and then you could, you know, progressively put a little bit of greens in them. And I like to call green smoothies dragon smoothies, because it just kind of gives it that creative twist. And, you know, some kids are like, oh, it's green, so they're not into it. But I'm actually doing a workshop with some children not next week, but the week after, in my kids' school. And that's going to be my technique is I've made these masks, like dragon masks. So we're going to do dragon smoothies, and they're all going to color their own masks. And I think it'll create this nice, yeah, synergy with the.
That is so cool. What other
Yeah.
tips do you have? Because you have kids. I have stepsons, but they make their own food now. They're old old enough to make their own food. So I haven't had that experience with smaller kids. Do you have any really quick tips on how to get them to eat more greens aside from the smoothie tip, but more greens, more salads? Like what are the best things that you
I
have
mean,
for
the
that?
number one tip is really the smoothies, just because you're able to mix them with the fruit. So obviously, you know, the fruit usually overrides the greens taste. I also think that having greens with like fruit on them, kind of like a taco, is fun. The wraps work really well. Having like a lot of greens inside these like fruit wraps, because it kind of all comes back to like having the fruit with the greens. It just, yeah, it tends to really work out. Creating stories around whatever you're eating is very helpful. Kids tend to like to imagine, you know, whatever they're eating is something else, or yeah, creating a story behind it works well. And also allowing them to be actors in what they're creating. Like my kids are loving making, you know, their own fruit salads. And it's come to the point where they like, my twins are 3 and my eldest is 5, and they'll go get like the cutting board and knives, and sometimes I have to like watch out because they may grab their own knife, knives and like fruit, and they'll just start making their own fruit salads. So I'm really happy to see them doing this. So yeah, I would say green smoothies with like stories behind them, the wraps, just creating stories behind whatever you're doing, and then allowing them to have autonomy and feeling like they're, you know, little chefs would be my support.
Oh, little steps. I love that. Totally. I agree totally. Because kids, like as parents, we like give our kids stuff, right? And they don't have, if there's like a disconnect between how the food
Mhm.
became the food. They don't understand. They just sit at the table and then here's the food. They don't understand what goes into it. So I also recommend taking your
Mhm.
kids shopping with you and having them like, you know, like some stores, I know not all stores, but you could even buy one of these and take it to the store. Like you can buy those like miniature shopping carts for the littles, and they can
Mhm.
pick their own fruit. Like have them like grab their apple and grab their banana so they can touch the food and get in connection with it. And then you could say, okay, or ask them if they're old enough, ask them what do they want for lunch, and then they'll pick a salad. Say you pick a salad with a story behind it, right? Or whatever. It's like this mystery, magical
Yeah.
princess salad or whatever, right? And then and then you're like, okay, so we need this, 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 and this. Let's go to the store and get it, right? So you take them to the store and you're like, okay, so this is that thing, right? Like, well, let's get one of these and let's get that or whatever. And then maybe if they see something that they're like, oh, can we add this to the salad? Be like, yeah, let's add tomatoes and whatever. And then they are part of the experience. So then when they go, and then when you get home, then you make it with them. Get them, like if they're little, right? You could get them to wash. You could get them to turn on the blender, like little like things like that that can be helpful for safety, obviously, right? Or watch them or help them or whatever, but get them involved in the whole process. And then they're more likely to eat it because they were such a deep part of the process,
Yeah.
and they're excited to eat what they made instead of just giving them a salad and being like, here,
absolutely.
eat this.
I love the idea of getting the little miniature cart. It's a really good idea. Yeah, my kids, they love to pick out fruit, like strawberry, like berries. Like now it's, you know, strawberry season, and they're just like, they go wild. And we went to the market the other day, and there was this bakery that had set up, and there was a woman selling these like buns, but like they were not at all vegan, and they had a lot of sugar. And I was like, oh, like she was trying to entice my kids. I'm like, what are you doing? I was like, no, we're gonna go to the strawberries. And they were so happy with the strawberries, they forgot about the bakery stuff, and so I ended up buying them 2 huge things of strawberries, and we just sat out in the park and ate a bunch of strawberries. That's the other thing I find is when you're not brought up on this type of diet, you could project onto the children thinking like, oh, I want to make them happy. I want to give them a chocolate Easter bunny for Easter. I want to give them candy canes for Christmas. I want to give them these things. But in reality, your children, they're like, we're teaching them how to navigate this world. So I'm not saying you have to cut out all of that stuff 100%. I'm just saying, like, the more you teach them healthy habits, the less they'll struggle later on with these habits that are not so healthy. So
Yeah, exactly. I know it's about like deferring to the positive, deferring to the fun, deferring to the outcome, right? Because we're so like, oh, we can't have this and we can't have that and blah blah blah. Blah. Let's forget about that. Like, let's focus on the fun, the awesomeness. You know, the strawberries, like you said with the buns. It's like, oh, just don't focus on that. Like, let's go look at this, look at this, look at this. It's like you have to shine these like big objects, shiny objects of the strawberries. And we gravitate to that anyway. So it's like, you know, you've got both choices. It's like, which choice do you want more? And just gravitate towards that.
There's watermelon lime who's written, can you write the name of that spice in the chat? And I think she's talking about the amtur.
Amtur, yeah, it's A-M. I don't know if I can post in the chat. I can't see much in the chat,
I can
but
type
I'll try. A-M, yeah, A-M-C-H-U-R.
Okay. So
Mango, yeah, it's like dried mango. Amtur, yeah. And also another thing too, I had never ever had Burberry spice before, ever in my whole life. And Daniel's and Chris Kendall's books both call for Burberry spice. So I ordered some online, that's salt-free version, and it's my new spice.
I'll have to try it. I haven't tried it either. I've never tried it.
Yeah. Burberry is so unique because it's got the earthy cinnamon, clovey, that kind of flavor, but also got the heat of a chili flavor, and it's got the Middle Eastern like fenugreek style. Like it's got those 3 angles to it, and it's so unique. I'm like,
that's amazing.
Like I said, I'm hooked.
We've got one last comment. You could also make a pesto from greens. They may like that. Watermelon lime. Yes, absolutely. I've made spinach pesto, and they tend to eat that a lot easier than they do like the full spinach leaves. Awesome.
Yep, gotta hide it in the food.
Absolutely. Well, if anyone has any last questions, go ahead, and if not, like, guys, definitely check out the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle. I put the link in the chat, and you can also get it in the bio. And so I'm not seeing any questions pop up, and I know you have to get going. Thank you so much, Lissa, for coming on and taking the time to explain how to make the perfect hand salad. And then we were able to talk about tips for getting kids to eat more greens, and we also spoke about how you get the flavor pairing. So we spoke about a lot of really cool things. Um,
Yeah, it was a good live. Thank you so much. It's so cool to meet you
yeah,
finally.
really
I
nice
love
meeting
that.
you too. So you have a friend in France. When you come to France, you have a place to stay.
Merci beaucoup.
De rien.
Merci beaucoup. Awesome. All right. I love you. Thank you for being part of the bundle,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for
And
being
thanks to
you.
everyone who's watching this. Take care and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Definitely.
Bye,
Thank you.
Lissa.